everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lena Saleh, the Edtech Guru, where we explore all things Edtech and education related. All right, let's do this. Today, I wanted to kind of discuss computer science. So computer science is a very important topic that has become kind of the hot button trend. We know that code.org with the Hour of Code has really sparked how fun computer science can be. I know that from being in my own background, we know that I just never knew what computer science was. Being from my dad being an immigrant and my mom being from a really rural town, I really didn't understand what computer science was. And the first time that I had access to computer science, I was in high school, my senior year, and I wasn't about to take that risk to know what computer science was. Also, it sounded really difficult, and as much as I really enjoyed the difficult learning, I just wasn't ready to take that on my senior year. When we did our first Hour of Code event in 2012, we had 650 students spanning the grades of K through 8, and they worked together, and we had a full Hour of Code day, actually, where every single student in the building coded for an hour. And we had unplugged activities and plugged in activities, and there was all kind of rotations that kind of went through. But it wasn't until I took the training in 2011 for code.org and actually helped facilitate quite a bit of workshops for code.org did I really understand how much I loved computer science. I loved it. I thought it was so fun, and I still think it's so fun, and I just love how you can work with this code and create something so grand. And I think it's really cool to introduce that to your students as well. And so what I want to discuss today is actually how computational thinking, the key for computer science, is actually relevant in your classroom for all subject areas. I like to think about computational thinking as the key for problem solving. So basically, it's the steps for problem solving. There are 4 categories for computational thinking, and that's decomposition, abstraction, pattern recognition, and algorithms or algorithmic thinking. And so each one of those kind of has their own basic representation. Lots of ways that computational thinking actually relates to something. So if we think about something like a banana split, let's say. The first thing that I want to do is I see I have a banana split, but I really don't understand all the pieces of the banana split. So actually what I do is I actually decompose it. So I take it apart. I take the banana, I take the chocolate ice cream, the strawberry ice cream, and the vanilla ice cream, and I put them into categories, and then the cherries on top in separate things. So I decompose it. Then what I do is I look and see if I have any patterns. Do I have 2 scoops of vanilla, or do I have 2 scoops of strawberry? Do I have 2 scoops of chocolate? And I look to see if there's any kind of a pattern within my problem. Or maybe I just want to pull the most important details. Maybe I am just looking at the chocolate ice cream. So I pull the chocolate ice cream out, and then I create an algorithm. So an algorithm is sort of like a recipe, so a set of directions. So the first thing I know for building a banana split is that I need to put the banana in, and then I put each different scoop of ice cream, and then I know that I like to have whipped cream, so I'll put whipped cream on top, and then I'll top each one of those scoops of ice cream with a cherry. So there's a step-by-step plan of action. It doesn't make sense necessarily, not like it doesn't really make that big of a difference in this example, but it doesn't make sense to put the ice cream in, put the banana in, then put the whipped cream, and then put the cherries. So every time we've ever seen a banana split, the banana is on the bottom, each scoop of ice cream is on the top, and that's how we create a banana split. So the algorithm is really the set of directions. So decomposition is breaking down the problem into smaller tasks, like we did with the ice cream. Then you look for patterns for the pattern recognition. Then with the abstraction, you identify the important information versus the unimportant information. And then the algorithm design. So that's just the steps to complete the problem. So when I think about computational thinking, I actually think about it in terms of writing. When you're writing either an essay or a prescriptive text, or even creating step-by-step directions when you're writing your findings from a science experiment or something like that, or even taking a word prompt for standardized tests, you can actually take the word prompt. The first thing you do is you look and see what is it exactly asking, so you find out what it's asking. And then you highlight the important information. There's always going to be extra information that's not that important. So you can pull that out and see if there's any patterns or anything. So sometimes there's, certain details in the text that might be repeated, and then you create your algorithm. So for instance, creating a 5-paragraph essay, which when I taught 4th grade was a really important factor because they had to do that on the state standardized test. So the first thing you do is you have your first paragraph, and in the introductory paragraph you basically have a recipe, then you have a recipe for the body, and then you have a recipe for the conclusion. So you can take that writing prompt and then you can start to create the details or the algorithm for how you're going to complete your essay, and then you create the essay. So computational thinking to me is the breaking down of a problem. So anytime you have a math problem or anything like that. So that thinking is actually really utilized across multiple disciplinary areas, and it's not just utilized into one place. So we're going to take a minute and we're going to watch this little video. It's one of my favorites that I like to share whenever I'm doing presentations. So once you watch this video, it's really short. I'm just going to pop it in here really quick so you can kind of go over that, and then we're going to come back together and check it out.
Computational thinking. What is it, and why is it so important? Let's start by looking at the what. You may think that computational thinking is about thinking like a robot or programming like an expert, but it's not. Rather, it is a very versatile skill, a skill that focuses on critical and logical thinking. To put it simply, computational thinking is a problem-solving skill. Let's dive a little deeper. Computational thinking is about looking at a problem and solving it systematically, and therefore arriving at a solution that both humans and computers can understand. Essentially, it is considered the highest order of problem-solving. Computational thinking is made up of 4 elements: decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithmic thinking. First of all, decomposition. Decomposition is about breaking a difficult problem down into simple and easy-to-manage parts. Second, pattern recognition. Problems come in all shapes and sizes, but amongst their many differences, there are bound to be similarities. Pattern recognition is about spotting what different problems have in common and using what's worked before to help you out again. Third, abstraction. Abstraction is all about focusing on the details that matter while ignoring the ones that don't. By applying abstraction, we can cut through fluff to get to the heart of the matter. Finally, algorithmic thinking. Algorithm is really just a big word for a set of rules. So algorithmic thinking is basically when you generate a series of simple steps that anyone can follow to solve a problem. Now, let's bring everyone together with a simple example. Meet Max. He's your average hardworking young man, trying his best to be a productive member of society. But today, Max's car has broken down. Luckily enough, he's computational thinking enabled. Let's see how he solves this problem. Max's car can't move too well. He realizes that there are 2 problems. He's running low on fuel, and he has a flat tire. That's the first pillar, decomposition. Now, Max has been in a similar situation before, and based on past experience, he knows that he should take care of the flat tire first. That's the second pillar, pattern recognition. He doesn't have much fuel left, but it's enough to get him to the next patrol station, so he decides to ignore that and focus on the tire. That's the third pillar, abstraction. Finally, to change a tire, Max has to use a jack to elevate his car, loosen the nuts on his tire, remove the tire, and replace it with a new one. Now that's algorithmic thinking. As you can see, computational thinking isn't just for computer scientists or programmers. In fact, many kinds of people, from mechanics, doctors, to presidents, are subconsciously applying computational thinking in their daily lives. Thanks, Max. Have a nice day at work. So why is computational thinking so important? It's not. That is, if you don't mind being left behind in the Stone Age. According to Moore's law, computing performance doubles every 18 months. That is to say, in 10 years, a $1,000 computer will be able to compute faster, more efficiently than the human brain. With technology growing at such an exponential rate, we are integrating computers more than ever before into our lives. To connect, to optimize solutions, and most importantly, to solve problems. The possibilities are limitless. The problem is, having a supercomputer carry out basic instructions and tasks is not at all economical. To make full use of a supercomputer, you'd need to know how to give super instructions. This is where computational thinking comes in. a powerful way to generate advanced solutions and manipulate computers to work for you. Now, imagine if mankind had such immense power at our fingertips. We would be solving problems faster than ever before, with laser accuracy and machine efficiency. With computational thinking and supercomputers, the dream to tackling titanic problems, such as finding a cure for cancer, can be a reality, pushing mankind beyond the final frontier and boldly go where no man has ever been before.
In that video, it does a really great job of representing computational thinking. We see the boy in the video, he has a problem, and the problem has to do with his car, so he looks for background information, things that he kind of knows about stuff already. And then he determines that he has to figure out what's going on with his car. So he knows that a flat tire is the first thing that needs to be fixed, and then he'll need to get gas so that his car can actually drive again. So he has to go through all those problem-solving steps of computational thinking, and so it just applies to more things than just computer science. And I think when you're doing computer science, no matter what program you're using, Scratch, Tinker, CodeMonkey, Code.org, Code Combat, any of the coding platforms that you're using actually really do decomposition quite a lot, because you're doing a lot of debugging in the programs itself. And so when you're looking at a really big problem, you've worked a lot through the coding challenges, and you've worked through those, and you look at this debug and you're like, oh, what do I know about this? Well, I know that this object moves this certain amount, and I know that it can go these certain directions. I have also learned that it can do a loop, and it can do a function, and there's different pieces of that. And then you start to create your plan. I know that this object needs to step 5, then turn right, then step 5 more, then turn left, step 5 more, turn right. Oh, now I have a loop. So there's lots of ways to kind of integrate that in there. A lot of times, computer science, computational thinking is forgotten. Many teachers think that computational thinking and computer science needs to be taught in isolation. However, they really lend itself well to each other. Computational thinking works really well with math. It works really well with science. It works with every single content area that you're doing, except obviously when you're teaching a kiddo to read or that kind of thing. But an algorithm is a 2x2 multiplication problem. After you've figured out that computational thinking can now be tied into everything that you do, you can start to really tie in the computer science into what it is that you're doing. So if I am working with a 5th grade group of students, we are working on algorithms, 2x2 multiplication. I want my students to understand how 2x2 multiplication works. So we look at it, we break it down, we recognize the patterns, we notice the tens place and the ones place and how they each correlate with each other. And then once we've kind of done that, then I have them create the step-by-step directions for how to actually solve the equation. When the students have a better understanding and grasp of how to do multiple things, especially when you're doing double-digit multiples times a double-digit multiple, it can be really tricky for sometimes students to understand the place value and where it goes. When you break it down, decompose the problem, look for patterns, filter out the unnecessary information, and then you come up with how you're actually going to solve the problem. And then you can see how the traditional way relates to the Common Core way and the different strategies that there actually are to solve the math problem. So it becomes a very important feature that you utilize and use to solve that. So then once I have completed that unit for math, I'm actually going to have my students create a storyboard, as long as the program has a place for you to kind of create, and then they create a story based on that. So now I not only have my math components, but now I've introduced the writing piece of it, and then some language arts pieces are in there. And so there's just a different tie into that. And then at the end, they create coding stories, can then be shared with parents to also create that extra buy-in. So computational thinking and computer science, as a teacher that teach multiple disciplines, or maybe you are at a rural school and you're teaching all of them, or a private school and you're teaching all kids throughout all grades, I hope that you can see that computational thinking doesn't have to be taught in isolation by itself, but it can actually relate to multiple disciplines and multiple content areas. And then when you go in to do your coding lessons, they actually will tie to each other, and you're able to incorporate all those things together. Once again, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. My name is Lena Saleh, the Edtech Guru. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.